Radio in motion program loading in 3, 2, 1. Program activated.
Attention everyone, the unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake.
Okay, first things first, what is your name?
This is Big Sonny playing the best of the 90s and beyond.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Radio in motion.
Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go.
All right, here we go.
Radio in motion.
All right, thanks for joining me tonight on Radio Motion. Tonight's David Bowie, sort of ethereal themed kind of Life on Mars feeling, joined by some great company there, Pink Floyd, The Doors, Red Rider, and kicking it off there with some great tunes with Life on Mars from David Bowie. Anyway, more great music up tonight on the show. But first up, I wanted to talk a bit about something that was a bit of a surprise. It always is when we lose someone that's such an icon and someone that affects our lives. Talking about Sam Neill just passing away. And yeah, it's hard to believe. I mean, I know a lot of that generation is getting older, but, you know, passed away at 78. You know, 78, I'm going to be honest, you know, my parents are beyond that, so it's not something that you think about. I know nobody lives forever, but yeah, it just was a bit of a shock because, you know, when you see them sort of still out and about and you still see them doing movies or shows. And I said before, I'm keeping an eye out, I tell you, for Clint Eastwood. I mean, hey, if the man wants to live forever, that's fine. But, you know, he's in his late 90s. And I know Dick Van Dyke, for the older fans, the boomers out there and the Gen X. Not sure if the young ones know Dick Van Dyke, but, you know, the man is a legend in TV and comedy and movies. He is 100. And unless it's an AI version of him, he is still dropping the comedy and wit. And he's got a few videos out there on YouTube. And I'm like, okay, so is that just genetics or what's going on? William Shatner, like I mentioned. And hey, I'm a huge sci-fi Star Trek fan. I want him to live forever. But, you know, he's in his late 90s. He is still up on stage, roaring up the crowd with his unique brand of William Shatner dry sarcasm. And I think it's amazing. So you never know. And Sam Neill, I guess, you know, I still think he looked great and sort of the quiet everyman he always plays. But yeah, you know, just talking a bit about him. And I do have a personal Sam Neill story, believe it or not. I'm sure, you know, everyone at a convention or something maybe has seen him or gotten an autograph. Mine was a little bit more personal. But yeah, a career spanning over 50 years. And I think he did publicly speak about there was a battle with blood cancer. But his family was saying it's still a bit of a surprise. But you know, I think the thing that's always great about Sam Neill is whether he wasn't the biggest star in Hollywood. Having said that, Jurassic Park is good enough, and we'll talk about a lot of his other movies. I think there's just great performances in all of them, but he made every film better, honestly, by just simply being in it, whether he was, you know, the hero or the villain or supporting player. He brought intelligence and warmth and, you know, sort of a quiet authority and memorable. I don't care what movie I'm going to name in a bit. He was memorable. Like I'll say one right now, Red October. He wasn't the star of Red October, but you know what? I remember his scenes as being the fantastic counterpart to Sean Connery. And again, you know, as actors, it's not always easy to portray well, okay, that's their job, but you have to portray especially the camaraderie of a Russian submarine commander and his second in charge. How do you convey that? Maybe they did become fast friends. I'm sure they did. But on screen, it really just looks like, wow, these guys have been through everything. And you can tell just with a look and a nod and, again, the subtlety. So even with that part, I always watch Red October and think he has standout parts amongst, bigger personalities, like Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin. But anyway, so I'll give you my quick tidbit, unbelievably. So I used to work at Channel 7, Network 7 in Melbourne, in Australia, and I worked there for many years. And the building down in South Melbourne, I also worked on Blue Heelers, believe it or not, and it was around that time, 2004, 2005. There was a lift. There was the building there. I think it's torn down now. It went up to the upper levels, production studios and audio and editing. And, I had bumped into people before, more local TV show sort of talent in Melbourne. And sure enough, one day, I was just doing my job. You don't think, because especially when you're at work, you're just thinking your normal routine and you want to get through it. And I walked on the lift and I'm just not really paying attention. And I'm just looking around. Sure enough, I look at someone and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, nah, what? Your brain goes, nah, it can't be. And then, okay, I'm going to say, they always say everyone, when you meet them in real life, they always seem smaller. All right, I'm 6'5". For me, that's kind of everybody. But this person did seem a bit smaller than I pictured on the big screen. Anyway, I do remember distinctly he was wearing a jean jacket, and just look, as many actors do, especially someone like him who's very humble, I think, just laying low and blending in. Sam Neill is the kind of guy who could totally blend in, and you wouldn't pick him out. He's not walking around like Arnold Schwarzenegger going, look at me, I'm Arnold. I have a cigar. Everyone look at me. He's Sam Neill. He's just chilling. So yeah, he was in the lift. I think there were a couple of other people, whoever it was with him. And I do the awkward thing, and again, you always try to be professional. I'm not going to be. I work there. He's there to do work. He doesn't want some idiot who works there going, hi, I'm a huge fan. And so I didn't. No, I didn't stop and ask for an autograph. All I said was, after a bit of a smile, and he looked up, recognizes that I recognize him. And all I said was, doing some work upstairs. And he's just like, yeah, just some promos. And that was it. And, the lift door dings. I walk out. I actually think he did. And I just waved, smiled, and that was it. Look, I know this wasn't immense. We didn't sit and have a conversation and talk about life. But out of all the people in the world, and I've had only very few encounters with any celebrities, he's one that I legitimately had. And it's sad that he's passed away, because I remember that. It was short and sweet, and I didn't want to bug him. And I said something so lame. Obviously, he's there to do some work. He's not taking a tour of Channel 7. I don't think that thrills him, the man who has worked in Hollywood. You doing some work upstairs, or are you just using the toilet? Anyway, so I just asked him, you doing some work? He said, yeah. And that was it. So that's my Sam Neill story at Channel 7. But talking about him as sort of the everyman in his roles, going back to Sleeping Dogs, 1977, sort of a breakthrough role, New Zealand film. And again, everyone, especially Americans, and I'm one of them, but hey, I've been in Australia for half my life, so I'm a bit half and half. But everyone just immediately assumes everyone's from Australia. They have no concept that someone is from New Zealand, They do that with Russell Crowe. They do that with everybody. And they do it with Sam Neill, too. Oh, he's Australian. Well, he's New Zealander. And then, moving on. Now, I remember this one. I bet no one does, because I used to always, sci-fi and horror. So I remember he was in The Omen 3. He was Damien grown up. Now that wasn't as popular as the first two, the original Omen movies, by the way. By the way, watch the first two Omen movies, or even the third one. They are awesome and creepy. You won't sleep, period. But yeah, he was in The Omen 3. He was Damien all grown up and ready to hit the road as the devil, the devil's son. But yeah, it's a good movie. Possession in 81. Obviously, I have to talk about the movie that, again, most Australians cringe at, Evil Angels in Australia and known as A Cry in the Dark in the U.S. in 1988. Yes, Meryl Streep doing her worst Aussie accent, a dingo stole my baby. Yes, it was terrible, I know. What can you do? But he was great in it. That's a hard part to do. And then the one, again, that I always talk about, and it is a pivotal movie for two people. The other one being, who's that fiery, curly redhead? Nicole Kidman. Yes, Dead Calm, 1989. That was Peter Weir. That movie is a masterclass in suspense. And Billy Zane, hey, he was cool for a while, but it was just the three of them in that movie, and it's intense. That movie is a must-see if you haven't seen that. The chemistry is great between all of them, and Billy Zane does a great Psycho. Fantastic. And then, of course, we arrive to the 90s, sort of the gateway to the 90s. Actually, I remember the Red October as being 1990, the beginning of the 90s movies. I always think of that as The Hunt for Red October. But yeah, he's not even in the lead, but, I think he stole every scene with warmth. And so that's the thing, Red October. Of course, that movie has great writing. It's not all just action. There are amazing, poignant parts that move the plot, and all of his scenes are just really filled with warmth. And it seems like the relationship between him and Sean Connery as the captain are absolutely natural. And that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing I think I miss in a lot of movies today. They're always trying to do the templated. It has to be the big Marvel movie or the big superhero, and I think we have superhero fatigue. What about The Everyman? A movie with thought, and it could even be action and adventure. Jurassic Park is filled with, giant T-Rex going around, ripping lawyers apart, chasing children. But even in that movie, he brought warmth. So we flash forward to Jurassic Park, 1993. By the way, 1993. I'm feeling old. That blows my mind. I can't believe that movie is that old. I won't get full nerdy because I do movie reviews at another time. We're going to keep this about Sam Neill. But man, Jurassic Park, to this day, you can tell when true artists work on a movie because that movie still looks like $1 billion. It looks fantastic. And that was the early days of CGI, but you know what? You can't even pick it. You go, that dinosaur is real because they mixed CGI and animatronics and it's all about practical physical effects. So yes, that movie, fantastic. Sam Neill, well, he is the lead role, and he did that well, and he did it in true Sam Neill style. And I love the scenes with him and the kids because he's very awkward. We already get a bit of background at the start that he's a bit standoffish with starting a family with his girlfriend, and then he's stuck with these two kids in the truck as they go through Jurassic Park, and the dinosaurs get loose. Funny about Jurassic Park, I don't even know which number we're on now. I don't even care. It's funny how the same thing happens every time. The same thing happens, and people always think, it won't happen this time. Hey, let's mix people and dinosaurs. What could happen? Part 10. Anyway, again, iconic movie, fantastic. He was perfect in that. I can't picture anyone else. Again, I couldn't picture Sylvester Stallone or Arnie. The dinosaurs. There's so many dinosaurs. Run. I don't know. There's explosions and dinosaurs. Nah, doesn't work. Sam Neill works. The piano in 93, In the Mouth of Madness. So again, this is, I think one of John Carpenter's greatest or craziest horror films, but Sam Neill is fantastic in that. Really gets deep into it. And I used to make fun of this movie, but I've circled back to it and watched it. It's actually fantastic as a cult horror sci-fi masterpiece. Event Horizon '97. I think Sam Neill unleashes like the darkest performance of his career. And at the time, I don't know, maybe as a teenager, I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. But no, that movie is fantastic, and I will probably rewatch it. I urge everyone to rewatch that. The Dish, obviously, one of Australia's most beloved comedies. Come on, every Australian knows The Dish. And yeah, and he always, again, he brings it back to Australia and New Zealand, and he always made sure, as much as he said, well, I've done this in Hollywood, and I'm so glad for this opportunity. And again, he always treats it with respect and humbleness. It's so rare to see humble in Hollywood, and that was him. But, you know, Hunt for the Wilder People, Peaky Blinders, again, he keeps going. I think he's just someone who likes to work, but I think he balanced that well with family. But yeah, he always represented an era when like character actors could carry huge films without turning everything into a spectacle. You know, it wasn't about being a flashy or action hero. You know, he would play the intelligent, flawed, believable man. That's the thing that's missing too in movies, and women. They write women so poorly. I've talked about this before. The believable man and the believable woman. He would play the scientist, naval officer, you know, a husband, detective, a doctor, and a villain who smiled, I always say, rather than shouted. That's sort of what I say about villains. Used to actually be smart. They were complicated. Sometimes in movies, and it was okay, it was fun, you kind of liked the villain. You were confused. Nowadays, they just have to make them polarizing and crazy. It's boring. He was, the villain with a smile. And, again, I think modern blockbusters are just missing that. He belonged to a generation that trusted the audience to appreciate subtlety. There's no subtlety anymore. They always assume the audience is just really stupid, and they literally will, you know, there'll be parts they write in the movie where it's almost if they're turning to the audience going, all right, so he's after that guy, and this is the bad guy, but catch up and keep an eye on her. Everyone caught up? All right, continue. Oh my God. It's not the Wiggles. We're not three. So yeah, I think he was in a good time. He was lucky. He was in that perfect suite, you know, the 80s, 90s. He was in the best time to make movies. And yeah, some of his, again, we'll talk about Jurassic Park because that movie's perfect. You can't fault that movie. You know, he's, tell me that iconic moment when he removes his sunglasses and sees the Bronchiosaurus for the first time. I think that's one of the best reaction shots ever. And whether that was directed or that was just him, either way, he pulled it off, and it would have been like, cut. That's the scene. Because no amount of spectacle and CGI can sell it if the actors on screen can't sell it. Because again, even back then, they're looking at nothing. They're just looking at, you know, a guy with a huge, long white pole probably. All right, dinosaur's eyes are up here. Dinosaur. And they're like, okay, act. Be amazed. Be bewildered. He did it. He sold us bewildered to the world. And that was great. And again, comforting the terrified children, even though he was a bit standoffish about kids, you know, he comforted them without further terrifying them, even though he might have been terrified. Teaching that annoying kid at the start who, I don't know, the kid with the googly eyes, you know, about velociraptors, where the kids, that doesn't look very scary. It sounds like a giant chicken. I think in actuality they actually kind of were. But anyway, you know, Spielberg had to terrify them a bit. But yeah, he terrified the kid by telling him about the claws that would rip you from your sternum to your head. Yeah, the electric fence scene. Sorry if it's a spoiler. This movie's too old. Too bad for you. the giant electric fences. They have to climb over them, and they're off. But the kids aren't sure if they're off. He knows they're off. The lights aren't on. He can tell, hopefully. But yeah, he pretends to be. He grabs the electric fence and goes, ah, and pretends to be shocked. And then he turns back, and the kids are so pissed because he sold it quite well. But yeah, little things like that. Just the comedy. And again, I think that was his natural demeanor. But yeah, sort of the transformation in the movie from him being someone who's uncomfortable around kids to being their protector by the film's end. And one of the heroes. There's multiple heroes in that, but he was certainly one of the main ones. Yeah, so Alan Grant, his character, he's not an action hero, but he's still a hero. He survived through intelligence and courage and compassion. And I think that's one of the great things about when the right actor matches with the right part, and he definitely did for Jurassic Park and many of his other parts. Event Horizon is just unforgettable. There's some full-on scenes when they discover the crew's original fate. Again, I won't spoil that one. That one's worth definitely watching if you haven't seen it. There's sort of a gradual descent from a grieving scientist to a possessed fanatic. Again, it mixes horror and sci-fi all in one, that movie. But yeah, that's a great one, Event Horizon. See him really come apart in the best way. But yeah, he gives a enormous humanity to all his roles. In Australia and New Zealand, I think there's few international stars remained as loyal to Australia and New Zealand productions. And that's the thing, too. I think that's important. That's why it was possible for me to bump into him at Channel 7, because he could be doing anything in the world, but he always would come back and do productions here. And I think that's great. Australian historical films. He was doing, documentaries, documentaries about New Zealand and Australia history. And I think that's great. But born in Northern Ireland originally, just got some dot points here. So born in Northern Ireland, but moved to Christchurch as a child. Always considered New Zealand his home. Where you grow up is your home. Mel Gibson was born in New York. Whether you still want to claim Mel Gibson or not, I think Mel Gibson's awesome. Grew up here. Nicole Kidman was born in Hawaii. So, it's more of where you're cultivated, where you're raised. He was considered for James Bond, and later joked that, he was relieved that he didn't get the role. I think he would have been a good James Bond. George Lazenby was the only Aussie to give it a go. I know that didn't last very long, but that would have been interesting. Yeah, apparently so. I don't remember these, but during COVID, he did some funny videos where he was, and I'm going to look these up now. He was chatting with ducks and pigs and other farm animals on his farm, and he became kind of an unexpected media favorite during that time. And I did catch one of them. He was talking to a duck, and yeah, it was just lovely to see him just having a chat with a duck and saying, "Hey, you just be you. Nothing wrong with that. You can go out into the world and be yourself, and nothing's wrong with that. Just be a duck." It was great. But yeah, so all in all, that is a really unfortunate loss again, and it came out of nowhere. Like I say, I have certain actors I'm keeping track of, and he wasn't one of them. I didn't picture him as old or in poor health. Again, whether we find out more, I never like to know too much. It's none of my business. But if it was something that happened, it was something medical or cancer related, and that is quite sad. But that's for the family to go through and decide what to talk about. Either way, 78. He's not old in today's world. I think people are living longer, and yeah, certainly, I know he had a lot more spirit and life left in him. So it's definitely a huge loss. But yeah, there you go. So Sam Neill. So definitely check out any of those movies. I think they're fantastic. And again, Jurassic Park is a no-brainer. But the other ones I mentioned too, and definitely a lot of the Australian and New Zealand movies, and I think it is great that he always paid homage to the place he was from and made sure to give back. That's important. I think everyone should do that. I think most Australians are like that. And that's what makes you all unique. I think you do remember where you come from, and you make sure to pay it back. So, Sam Neill, huge loss, but we're left with a great lineage that, what can I say? That's the thing that actors and musicians can do. They leave something behind that we can all celebrate each day and remember them, even though they may be a character. Especially with him, I think a little or a lot of himself always came through in the characters he played. So you can always catch up with Sam Neill in one of your favorite movies. All right, we'll be right back with some great tunes doing our David Bowie's Life on Mars feel tonight. We'll catch you in a minute after a word from our awesome sponsors.